Good evening. Good evening. It is evening when I'm recording this. And I am so excited. We are almost through our first full week. Can you believe it? So, for the next few sessions, we are going to be focusing on some simple drawings. So, all you will need for supplies is a pencil or pen and paper, maybe an eraser, maybe a paper towel or a shader. Sometimes your finger works just fine. So, I have my sketchbook here. This is actually my watercolor sketchbook, but it works just fine. Even computer paper will work fine for what we're going to be doing for the next few days. Painting is nothing more than drawing with a paintbrush and paint, in very simplified terms. Now, there's some nuances that belong to all of it, but painting really comes down to being able to draw with paint. And so there are some foundational drawing pieces that we're going to need so we can understand each other when we're communicating. Okay. I am going to bring into play some drawing keywords of drawing tonight. So when we practice every day, you're going to know what I mean when I say something. And then we'll always have a video here where you can come back and refer to it if you forget what that means. The first word that you're going to need to know as part of 3D drawing is the word foreshadowing. All foreshadowing means is that you're distorting objects or parts of an object to create the idea that one edge is actually closer to your eye than the other edge. For example, if I were to draw a circle and put 1 cent in it, that would represent a penny, right? A penny as you'd be looking at it like this. But what if I wanted to look at it like this? That would be an example of foreshadowing because then you would see the edge and it would be distorted, right? We now have an oval with an edge versus a round circle. So that's an example of foreshadowing. Shading is what it sounds like. We're adding a darker area to one side of the surface versus the other. The darker area is going to be the opposite of where we're imagining our light is coming from. So here's an example. If we were to draw a box and the light is coming from this way, then this would be shaded, wouldn't it? This would be darker, and it would actually be darker on the bottom here and then start to get lighter up here. Because that's the farthest point away from where the light is hitting. This might even have a little shade to it. Okay? We also shade on the underneath it to make it appear that it's sitting on a surface. So surface is our next word. So when things are sitting on a surface, first we're going to have this shading bit. So we land the object. That's what we call that, landing the object. So now it looks like it's sitting on something. But things that are closer to me on my surface appear to be bigger than things that are in the background but still on a surface. So these are both sitting on a table, if you imagine, right? But this one is closer to me, so it's bigger. Does that make sense? If we were to draw them back to back, we would have this one be bigger. And then we would have this one be a little smaller or appear to be smaller. So this one comes out front. Okay? In the sky, it is the opposite. So if you're drawing clouds or birds, the birds that are bigger, the clouds that are bigger are closer to you, and the clouds that are smaller and the birds that are smaller are farther away. So this is the sky or space. And then this is on a surface, like a table or the ground or, things like that. And generally, for size, objects that are drawn larger will look closer, except when you're overlapping. And we'll get into that. But generally, items that are bigger are going to appear closer to you. Unless there's an overlap, and then the overlap is going to make whatever's overlapping look bigger, but that's down the road. So just in general, size, if something's bigger, it looks closer. When we draw, say we're drawing a snake or a caterpillar, and we want this to appear rounded, we can draw contour lines. So when we say contour lines, it means the line is following the shape of the object. And that creates an appearance of roundedness. And it gives volume and shape. Okay? So a contour line, all that means is we're following the shape of an object to give it volume and definition. When we overlap, see, here comes the overlapping part. Objects drawn in front of the others will make those objects appear closer. Okay? So they can be smaller, but in front of something else, and it's still going to appear closer. And the example of that is going to be like a mountain scene. So here we have some mountains. Even though this one's bigger, this one's in front because it's overlapping all of these other ones. Does that make sense? Just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Okay. Density is another term that helps us integrate spatial difference. So things that are closer to us are usually drawn darker and with more detail. So imagine this tree line back here, okay? And we're just going to go in and draw some funny lines like this, right? And it's going to be really light. However, when we draw something that's really close to us, it's going to be dark and we're going to be able to see all the details. So think about that. When you're out there looking around tomorrow and after doing this lesson, you're going to notice this more and more the more you practice. You're going to notice the things that you drive up on. You're going to notice their color and their brilliance and their details a lot more than the things that are back here in the background. Even if there is a building, like you're just going to notice the shapes, but you're not really going to notice any sort of detail. But these things that are up close, we're going to notice. We're going to notice every little branch and nuance. Doesn't mean we paint or draw all of that. It's just we need to be aware that things that are closer to us are going to be more vibrant, darker in value, and have more color and have way more details than these things back here. I could just do that and you would be like, "Oh, that's a tree line." Especially if I filled all this in up front. Okay, so that's density. So far we've gone over foreshadowing, shading, surface, okay, and size, surface and size. We've gone over contour lines, and we've gone over overlapping, and this is density, okay? The next word I want to talk about, which is our last actual drawing word, is shadow. And shadows are what we know what they are. They're what's cast off of an object. on the shaded side. And it anchors an object firmly into a surface, even if it's flying above the ground, right? So a shadow, let's say we have a flying saucer here. She is just extra special because I was gone all day today. So I'm sorry for all of her whiners that you're hearing in the background. She just wants attention. Okay, so let's say we have this. Well, the shadow is going to be cast down underneath here. There, in perspective, there's a certain way to draw a shadow, and we'll get into that. But we just need to know that we're always, every time we draw something, we're probably going to have some sort of a shadow somewhere. And that's part of what gives it our 3D image. So if I say shadow, that just means that we're putting in some darker areas, okay? To make it have a 3D look. Now, the last two words I want to talk about really have to do with mindset and practice. When we're first learning a new skill, it's not always going to look great, but I don't want you to give up hope, and I don't want you to have an attitude of like, I can't, or this is too hard, or anything like that. These videos are going to be here for you all the time. I'm never going to take them down. So you're always going to have something to refer back to, especially when we start with the basics. Okay. Also, you can always pause the video and practice it until you feel comfortable. Um, these words that we go over produce results which are going to give you more confidence. You're going to learn how to use all of them in your practice. And that's the final word, the final and the 10th word or phrase of the night is daily practice, daily use. So none of these are any good unless you know how to use them or you practice using them. So art is, I want you to say this over and over in your head when you're practicing. I can't do art wrong. Actually, it takes a while to figure out sometimes how to hold your pencil, how it's comfortable for you, how you're going to get the best effect, right? It's going to take practice to understand foreshadowing and shading and surface. It doesn't just happen overnight. We don't learn how to do the ballet just by walking onto the dance floor, right? We have to practice and we have to show up every day and practice if we want to get good at something. So your art practice is no different. You can come and go as you wish, but if you really just want to really dive in and learn how to get better at your own painting and drawing skills, I recommend doing these exercises every day. I recommend getting out a sketchbook or stapling some computer paper together to make your own sketchbook and just figuring out just a few minutes every day to doodle or to come back to these videos every day. It's really going to enhance your confidence and self-esteem. Actually, drawing really, the reason it helps our self-esteem is because when we're drawing and we're focused on the moment, we're not focused on all the garbage that is bringing us down throughout the day or all the stress that we face throughout the day. We're not focused on the bills. We're not focused on, how am I gonna fit all this stuff into my schedule. We're not focused on the cleaning. We're not focusing on the meal prep. We're just simply giving ourselves a few minutes, 15, 20 minutes every single day to rest our brain. And when we can do that, our anxiety and our stress reduces, our self-esteem starts to come back, and so does our confidence. So with that, thank you for joining me tonight. And tomorrow we are going to be working on drawing simple shapes, boxes and circles, and putting those simple shapes together into a design. I look forward to seeing you. Bye-bye.